So we had a group chat called Gen Z Lab Rats, and this was a group chat that Charlie put together of just a bunch of Gen Z chapter leaders that he wanted to get their input on everything. And so today we have two of those chapter leaders joining us. It's Dino Fantegrossi, who is the chapter president of the University of Arkansas, and Brady Salmon, who's the chapter leader president of University of Kentucky. And both of these guys have seen tremendous growth on their campuses, on their social media accounts, everywhere across the board. So I first want to just open up asking them some of the experiences that they've seen on campus, whether it be students showing up for the first time, chapter people joining their chapters for the first time. Guys, what stories have you heard? How has the growth been since 9/10 to present? In about 2 hours, it's going to be a month since that horrible day. But what have you seen that can encourage a lot of us?
Let's go Dino first.
Sure. So we started off on September 8th with about 75 registered members. Since then, we have increased all the way to over 400.
Whoa.
Since earlier this week. We crossed 400. So that's been incredible. We've had Alex Stein, we've had Brylan Hollyhand, and our Instagram following went from about 1.2K. We're over 16K today.
Wow.
So there's been an incredible movement of people towards us, running towards us, not away in the face of something terrible. And I think that should be encouraging for everybody listening in today.
Wow. What about you, Brady? What have you seen?
Yeah, we started, I think we had around 60 members, and now we're at about 200. And just comparing the first two meetings, our first meeting had 12 members, and the next meeting we had 70. So Wow. It's very clear these people that they might not have been politically active felt drawn to carry on Charlie Kirk's message. And we've seen that continue on campus with so many people starting to get out there and starting to join our chapter and to just let right-wing voices known on campus, both on our campus and then on the small colleges across Kentucky. Wow. It has been unbelievable to see these execs get out there and try to carry the message out, even if the administrators try to cut them off at any time they can.
Wow, incredible. Both these young men, I met them while working with Charlie, and Dino, I actually met you when you were a freshman, University of Arkansas. Charlie was on campus speaking for the first time, and I felt like forever ago, but I can't believe all this time has passed. So you guys are on the front lines as the students of this movement. And so you are the Gen Z lab rats who are on the front line, seeing what's happening on campuses, seeing what ideas are spreading with Gen Z folks on campus, seeing what professors are indoctrinating students with. Whatever you are seeing, guys, you're on the front lines. Have you seen political violence on campus? What have you seen that's crazy? Do you have any stories like that?
I think that this is something that basically everybody that goes to a major school in the United States of America that is a part of a chapter of Turning Point USA has experienced. I've been slapped, I've been spit on, I've been screamed at by students and professors alike. Obviously, I'm in Arkansas, so I probably don't have it nearly as bad as some of my friends at, Los Angeles, or even Brady has a crazy story of his own, I believe.
Yeah, I got a voicemail the other day while I was in class, and they were calling us Toilet Paper USA and a bunch of Nazis. So, and that's just the first of many instances where they do not care what they tell you. They just want to get at you anytime they can. And I'm sure many presidents across the country have experienced the same thing.
And this has been going on even in the last month. Have you run into any literal or would-be Antifa who've gloated about what happened or tried to troll you? We've seen that at some. We saw that at Northern Arizona the other week.
Yeah, we did.
Someone was harassing. Have you guys seen any of that?
It's been a little more chill where I'm at. We did have somebody last Friday who kind of walked past the table and he said, "Man, that sucks what happened to your mans." And he kind of indicated at his neck and whatnot. Lots of people do that kind of stuff. But I think where I'm at, people are a little more, they kind of lay back. Maybe it's because we have advanced concealed carry on our campus, so they don't actually know what somebody has. It's a little more laid back where I'm at, but I've definitely seen it at other universities a lot more prominently.
Yeah. Well, Gen Z and the younger generation in general was a very important thing for Charlie.
It was the thing for Charlie.
It was the thing for Charlie. Everything he saw in his life, he looked through a lens of, how does this impact the younger generation? And what can I do to look out for them? And so we have some clips from his interview with Tucker Carlson. But before we throw to those, I just want to ask you guys, What are you seeing that Gen Z cares about right now? Policies, what are they facing, the challenges they're facing? You guys are on the ground, whether it be with your chapter members or when you're tabling on campus or when you're just talking to friends at dinner. What are you seeing right now that Gen Z cares about the most?
I would say the biggest topic I'm seeing is immigration. And I saw that before Trump got elected. It was a big thing he ran on with the mass deportations. And that is something that Gen Z really does want to see get followed through. So immigration, and then we can tie it to the H-1B visas, anything involving that. Gen Z is very much fighting to keep our country alive on that issue and just try to keep it going the best we can. I would say that's definitely the best one.
Do we have that ready to go, Mike?
Yeah, we do. One of the Tucker Carlson.
All right, yeah. So let's play. This was Charlie on Tucker. I think it was last August.
Yeah.
And
play 146.
The age of a first-time home buyer in 2008 was 30 years old. It is now 38 years old. First-time home buyer. So what is causing this? Well, number one, I don't want to get like too Ron Paul libertarian, but the Federal Reserve pumping in cheap money post-2008 has just been a catastrophe. We have spent too much money, borrowed too much money. We have deteriorated our currency. And the purchasing power every generation is getting weaker. So your dollar is actually going less and less as far as it has year over year. So then what is the consequence of this? So you have a generation that is renting a lot more than it's owning. So when you do not own something, why would you defend it? So you find then political radicalization start to seep in because an entire generation is getting routinely cynical year over year as their net worth either stays at zero or goes into negative.
Wow.
yeah, let's throw up 372 as well. That's a graphic that Danny found us earlier. It's the rise in the average age of home buyers. Oh, the text on that is really tiny.
Well, you can see the ladder goes to 38. So in 2010 and then before that, it was about 30 years of age to buy your first time home. And then now it's 38 and it's only increasing. And if you look at the 80s, the average income versus what it cost to buy a home was only about 2 times your wages. Mm-hmm. Now it's like 10 times your wages.
Do you hear about those things, Dino and Brady?
I mean, we hear about them all the time. Right here in Fayetteville, we've got a huge problem with housing, and there's a multitude of reasons that we could get into. Predominantly here, one of the main things that we have to worry about is the university keeps enrolling more and more students beyond their capacity to house them without really any thought of what that means for the people in the city. But, in other places of the country, the factors are different. And part of one of those reasons might be that you have a investor that keeps going in. Every time there's a house in the market, they buy it on the spot before anybody can touch it. Maybe that's a private investor. Maybe that's a equity firm. It doesn't matter. A lot of the houses are simply being bought up by entities bigger than you and me, and we can't compete for the house.
Yeah, this is an important thing because I assume both of you guys want to own a house one day. And so you have this young generation who's going in debt because of college, in debt because of BNPL programs. Their wages aren't keeping up with the cost of inflation. And what they're doing is they're graduating college with degrees to go get jobs that don't exist. And so now they're thrown into the labor market that's already shrinking, and they're told to just pull yourself up by the bootstraps and figure it out by a lot of the older generation. And so this is coming from somebody who is Gen Z, by the way. And so it's hard to hear that because I don't necessarily think
I'm
that
one of the millennial oppressors here.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, he's one of the oppressors, guys. But this is important because I don't necessarily think the bootstraps still exist. Guys, we have about a minute and a half left. I want to hear from both of you guys in this segment what you guys think about the bootstrap.
The classic, pull yourself up by your bootstraps line. 30 seconds for each of you.
Well, yeah, I just think it's totally out of touch, and it's not something this generation really attaches itself to because we see where the situation is now. We see the tuition going up by 1,200%, and we see that our generation's really being set back. We see that it's hard for us to get jobs with H-1B visas, and we do not want to have to force ourselves to fix this without help as long as it's efficient. That's all we're asking for.
Yeah. Dino.
Right. So my biggest concern with this argument that you have to pull yourself up by your bootstraps is if nobody has bootstraps, then effectively you're telling them to do something that's basically impossible for them to do. And that's why you see a big push towards somebody like Zohran Mamdani, who is promising a bunch of free people to young people in my generation. That sounds really good on paper, but we've seen what that looks like when these type of people promising these policies get in power. It looks like Venezuela. It looks like the Soviet Union. It looks like China. And it's not good, and lots of people tend to die. So we can't do that in America. We've got to find a better solution.
Wow, man, you guys nailed that. 30 seconds each.
I know.
They're
very
perfectly
impressive,
did that.
We're back with the great Dino and Brady, chapter presidents at the University of Kentucky and the University of Arkansas. Thank you guys for hanging through this segment. Okay, so we were going to throw to this, but we ran out of time. But we're going to throw to it right now. 377. This is an article from Fortune. It says, today's housing market is so upside down that there are more senior citizens buying homes than Gen Z and millennials. Yikes.
Booming. Booming out of control.
And then there's another article that says, this is CNBC, investors are making up the highest share of home buyers in 5 years. So between investors, this is BlackRock, Blackstone, and senior citizens, where are the houses going?
I looked, we talked about pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, and it's become so difficult for the younger generations. I just had to search what actually is a bootstrap, because it occurred to me I wasn't really sure. It's the little strap from the back of the boot. It turns out that you could attach it to something.
Well, let's play clip 147. This is Charlie's own words, and then we're going to get you guys to react to this.
What policy do you support to make it easier for young people to buy homes?
Get rid of BlackRock purchasing a bunch of homes and renting them back to us.
Okay, so like seize their assets?
Not seize their assets. Make it illegal that asset managers over $500 billion can't buy single-family homes.
Okay, I really agree with that. That's great.
Thank you. Yeah. It's a super simple policy fix. If you have assets under management over $500 billion or $100 billion, you should not be in the single-family home business, period.
Okay.
And that's artificially boosting housing prices across the country. I believe homeownership is a moral good for all humans.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting thing that you have to recognize they're not just an investment thing. We're recognizing that it is good for people to own things because it gives them a stake in society. And
so, Dino, why don't you react to this?
Sure. So when you say that boomers and older are buying all of the houses, we have to keep in mind that if they're not buying them from BlackRock, they're buying them from each other. They're effectively sitting here and trading houses back and forth the same way millennials trade Pokemon cards. And that's not good because that's going to...
I got rid of my Pokemon cards years ago, Dino. I'm just going to say that.
Look, I got rid of mine too because I found that they were a distraction and I had work to do. But it's true. They're just trading them back and forth to one another. Of course, it's going to be impossible because that's how the prices get artificially boosted. Because they bought a house in 1987 or before that, and it cost them $50,000 cash in hand and a basket of mulberries. And how could we possibly compete when today that same house is what, 500, 600, 700 million dollars? Or not million, excuse me, thousand, but still, it's way out of range for somebody in my generation.
Yeah. What about you, Brady?
Well, yeah, I mean, when you have real estate investors buying a third of all single family properties, and you now have families living in RVs and renting instead of owning a home, I mean, it's clear to everybody that when boomers and investors are buying all of these houses up, it's really just sending us behind. And then we're told to pick us up by our own bootstraps. And it's like, you're really setting us back. And then now you're expecting us to just figure it out by ourselves. And it's really just doesn't work like that. And they're really not taking that to consider what really we need and what is our needs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
One of the themes Charlie was hitting on so much just the last few months, he talked about that choice, Mamdaniism or MAGA. And what drives so much of Mamdaniism is that nihilistic sense of, if I own nothing, if I have nothing, I might as well turn the entire system over, overthrow everything, because maybe I'll get something, and if not, I can tear down the people above me. It's a very resentment-based ideology. And the offset to that is you have to give people a stake in things. You have to give them something they don't want to blow up and throw away. And it's such a basic thing, and we need to, when we structure our laws, we have to think about that, because one of the biggest reasons housing just keeps going up is we kind of just have baked into the assumption housing prices have to go up. They're an investment for everybody. And it's going to be very difficult to navigate this, but we have to really move towards this. A house is something that people live in, and they, need to own it themselves, ideally,
Yeah.
and that is how you'll avoid some sort of gigantic revolution.
And I'll just say this too. There's a moment in that clip we played where the student agrees with Charlie and he's like, yeah, and like kind of smiles.
Charlie
And
was so good at that.
He was so good at that. And in his Tucker interview, Tucker goes, how do you know these things? And Charlie goes, well, Tucker, half the time I spend 100 hours on campus in the spring and the fall. Half the time I have my mic down and I'm just listening. So this is our challenge to the older people watching this. Put the mic down. Just listen
Talk to
a little bit.
your grandkids
younger
about
kids.
what they're really
Yeah.
feeling about these things.
Yes.
Can they afford things?
Put the mic down. Just listen a little bit. Yeah, awesome.
You know, Dino, Brady, thank you for coming on, and best of luck continuing to grow your chapters. And we'll be having more chapter heads on in the weeks to come.
Yeah, thank you, Dino. Thank you, Brady.
AMA
Absolutely.
in
Thank you,
hour
guys.
2.
Thank you.